joining us for this Brocade Challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. I was curious about what you guys are doing here.
Yeah, we wanted to start with a couple events that really matter to you. And it looks like you picked expansion and virtual mobility.
Yeah, those are the things that I do all the time because we're always growing and we're going to get everything 100% virtualized. So those are the challenges today.
Well, so let's take these two events and let's see what impact that could have on your network. So here we have one network. It'll be 12 commands for those two events. On the other side, it's 146 commands, and you can see how those commands impact your overhead and your effort directly.
Yeah, wait a minute. This is 146?
That's right.
So where's the zero here?
So we are over a factor of 10 simplification over this other network. So between these two, which one would you want to pick?
Well, if I had to do this every day, I'd rather drink beer, so I'm going to do this.
Okay. Well, you just picked the value of Brocade and our VCS Ethernet fabric. And you're going to see the automation inherent, and that's going to cause you that simplification. If we take your case of expansion, you can see how we were 10 commands versus 86 for that single event. On virtual mobility, 2 commands.
Two?
Okay? 2.
Wow.
2 commands, because we automate the entire process through that. Now let's go back and look at another event. Let's take if you're doing a brand new deployment.
Okay.
All right. So we start with a new deployment, and we're going to walk through the process. I'm going to show you how even at the design phase, if we just start with this basic design, okay? You can see on one network, you have a very simplistic environment. You have a couple IP addresses. We don't really need a lot of detail because everything else here auto-forms.
So what you say, you've got a couple of IP addresses and everything auto-forms?
Yes.
What do you mean by auto-form?
Well, we can automatically form a fabric where we'll be able to turn these 4 nodes into one logical chassis that you're going to manage as a single element. On the other side, you can see all the detail you need to do at the planning phase just to design a proper network. And for instance, you can see here you have port channel 10 that has to connect to port channel 100 on this switch. However, port channel on switch 2, number 10, has to connect to port channel 200. If you get a mistake on that, your team will be troubleshooting that for hours.
So you got to get all that stuff figured out in your head, laid out before you can even begin to start putting anything into the network equipment and configure it.
Exactly. Now let's walk through the installation process. So if we go through that installation, you're going to start at an install, and for both our networks, you have to manually configure the first box. You have to set a unique ID, you have to set the right firmware versions. Once you're past that, one network is going to automatically form a fabric. Will automatically go from having 4 nodes down to 1 node automatically. While over here, you're managing 4 separate nodes throughout your entire life cycle. So everything you do will be a factor of 4 greater effort through the entire life cycle.
So what you're saying is I can tell the boss that I'm maybe going to get half as much time required and I can still get an extra coffee break?
And you can use that to then plan out your next evolution in data center. We can reduce your overhead by over 50% because we're going to take out all those repetitive tasks, all that administrative burden that honestly the network should be able to automate. Once your network is aware of all the other nodes, it's aware of the topology, all these become simplistic cases that you can just forget about. You don't really need to worry about that in your ongoing process. And you can see now the dramatic impact this has had on your operational overhead. Between those two. So let's go back to our summary. Now we've compared, now we've chosen those 3 events. Let's look at how we've impacted the summary. We've increased to 34 tasks to add in the new deployment. We're over at 250 on the second network. And again, if we choose the one with less effort, you're going to see the value of Brocade and our VCS Ethernet fabric.
Well, that's pretty impressive because that's a tremendous time savings. If you multiply that by how many times we have to do this every year.
Absolutely. So I think, then that was really the intent of our Brocade Challenge, is really help you understand how one network really can be dramatically different than others, and how the value of automation within VCS Ethernet fabric can really simplify your environment.
Well, I'm sold. That's quite a difference.
All right, well, thank you.
You bet.